Welcome, welcome. This is the story of ithrvecom as a new way to describe the sacral-cranial pump, the spine liquid pump mechanism, and how we can learn about measuring stress, measuring relaxation, and the pathways to bliss. That's what this is about the people who are interested in understanding sacral-cranial pump and using HRV biofeedback on the iPhone, iOS to do that, ithrvecom. So that's the story. The fun part of this story, by the way, I'm Dan Winter, most of you know me. I'm seated next to Patrick Botti, who is our main programmer and genius for ithrvecom, whose background is, he was trained as a biologist, but also then he studied osteopathy, and then he began to work with the Sacral-Cranial Association.
So, I've learned in a French school, osteopathy, and in this school it was mainly directed to the sacral-cranial wave feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And my teacher, Daniel Fernandez, who is a French teacher, was the first person that makes a relationship between the sacral-cranial wave and a pressure wave which is inside the body, which is called the Mayer wave, which was discovered by a guy who was called Sigmund Mayer. And so he made a publication about
this
relationship between the Mayer wave and the sacral-cranial wave.
Mm-hmm. And we want to really talk about what the Mayer wave is, the natural resonance frequency of the blood pressure in the body, and how that eventually is the mechanism of the spine liquid pump. But I interrupted you, please.
Yeah. And so this Mayer wave, in relationship to the sacral-cranial wave, is not easy to catch, to feel it with your hand. So for students it's not easy to learn how to feel, because that's something that little children catch immediately, but when we are adults we lose it.
That's the beautiful thing. Kids feel this way. They feel this natural pressure in the body.
Yeah.
And one thing I wanted to say was when we were teaching people to be able to literally be tree huggers, and you measure when people can squeeze a tree and feel the low frequencies, the Schumann harmonics of the tree, we found that the people who were able to do it were people who were trained in sacral-cranial because they could feel the long wave.
Yeah.
But so here is Patrick in school realizing how hard it is to feel this wave, and he develops a way to help measure that.
Yeah, but in fact, it was quite, well, there was a correlation between what the osteopath feel with their hand and the pressure wave. But it could be done in a hospital with a very invasive pressure measurement with a needle, or also with an armband connected to a special printer. But it was a very expensive way or very difficult way to catch, to make the correlation between them. And so what I was looking for, it was a simple way to measure this pressure wave. And with the new computers, new sensors and things like that, well, I first began doing it on PC, and now with new iPhones with really much sensitive new sensor, well, I try to do it on iPhone, and now it's working on the iPhone. This is the ithrve, one part of the ithrve product.
And this is the miracle here, that the ithrvecom can use 4 different sensors: the camera light, the finger clip, the ear clip, and the chest strap. But for this pressure wave, the finger clip is the best, as it were. And actually we have right here, just to look at this, here is the finger clip measuring this long wave right there. There's an example of the display. But so that the ability to then show people who are trying to feel this in the body a way to see it on the screen was a breakthrough. And what we want to talk about here, so well, first here let's show the example here. So this is actually the data running. This is Patrick showing. So here is the finger clip transducer.
Yeah, the pulse is coming from the finger clip, and you see that there is a wave.
A wave on the wave, as it were.
A wave on the waves, yes. And this wave is displayed in yellow here.
And so
so you can see in real time the Mayer wave running through the screen.
The yellow wave, remember, is the LF frequency component, but it's displayed from this pressure wave here, whereas the blue wave is the LF component displayed
from HRV.
from the classically calculated HRV.
Which
yes.
HRV, which is here.
Yes.
In red.
And you see, the difference between these two is the fun part, and this is where I got so enthused. When later we're going to have a separate film clip about how we measure stress. But go ahead, Patrick. You can
Yes, you know, just to stop.
Yeah.
To make pause. Okay.
Yeah, so we have a good example of a wave on a wave here. But the phase relationship then of this natural long wave of pressure in the spine liquid pump, and then of course the sacrocranial pressure is perceptible in the fascia throughout the body. In fact, Patrick's explaining beautifully that the way this long wave of liquid pressure, which is related to blood pressure in spine liquid pump, propagates throughout the body is actually the trajectory of the growth of the embryo.
Yes, it's linked to the embryogenesis.
Yes, and the fun part is that if you're not relaxed enough to let these long waves of pressure...
Fixed part in the body.
That's right.
And that's what sacrocranial practitioners are doing. So giving back movement to the fixed part of the body, interacting with this wave.
Which restores a relaxation, which allows the resonance like a relaxed ringing bell. And so any place that's fixed, obviously, is going to block the flow. It makes perfect logical sense. Yeah. But then moving on from there, again, where I got very excited because my background was with Ben Bentoff, a leader in the psychophysiology, biophysics of Kundalini. And he measured Kundalini by measuring the relaxation of the spine liquid pump to the ventricle liquids of the brain. And in my book, there's a chart of the frequencies heard, the ringing in the ears heard by advanced meditators, and he did a graphic analysis of the harmonics, and I later showed that those frequencies fit my new equation for phase conjugate negentropic collapse, golden ratio, integer exponents, Planck length, and time, which is my book, Origin of Biologic Negentropy. So we're saying that this self-organization, negentropy, of the biologic system of the body as perfected collapse, perfected relaxation, perfected implosion, we call it phase conjugate negentropy. Look how that then applied, and it is Patrick here who helped me understand this. So I took the same equation, which here is in the red frequencies here are the actual output numbers from my equation, and look, it's a simple caduceus. But then if you overlay that in green, these are the classic sacrocranial pump frequencies, the long tidal, the mid tidal, and these long waves in the body fit perfectly this phase conjugate collapse. And look, the center point of that whole collapse is this, from my equation, 0.0959 hertz, literally 0.1 hertz, which is the Mayer wave.
Yes, which is the Mayer wave, and which is also what it's used in biofeedback for relaxing breath around 0.1 hertz.
So all the breath training,
the breath training
is done at 0.1 hertz. Everybody's doing that, and now
we understand why this 0.1 hertz
is implosive.
Has such an effect. It's because also it's related to the sacrocranial wave. So everything comes together.
The Mayer wave, the sacrocranial waves, and the 0.1 hertz. And the 0.1 hertz, as Patrick is emphasizing, is, if we look at the classic LF and HF frequencies, the center point of the classic LF, low frequency, and HF, high frequency bandwidths of the HRV are 0.1 hertz for the LF, which is Mayer wave, and the HF, 0.251, also fits bingo on my equation, you see. So the LF and HF, classic perfect relaxation, heart rate variability, harmonics, are all in this process of perfect implosive collapse. So that's the fun, that's why I got enthused, because if you get relaxed enough, and later we're going to demonstrate this in the separate film clip on how we measure stress, well, we actually measure stress by that phase relationship, which Patrick is just describing, which is really Patrick's discovery. We credit Dr. Botti here for that discovery, this mechanism of measuring relaxation by measuring when the HRV, the mechanical, or rather to say the electrical peak of your heart rate, comes into phase, which is the natural resonance of the liquid, of the pressure wave.
Of the pressure wave.
And what got me so excited originally was when I recognized that's exactly the same way Bentoff measured the onset of Kundalini. He said the long wave of the longest blood vessel of the body, from the heart to the aortic crotch. When that becomes like a violin string, he said, tuning a can of peaches, was the way he came into perfect resonance. The relaxed blood pressure wave came into phase with the heart electrical wave, and he measured that with capacitive accelerometer. But again, it was an expensive measurement, and Patrick discovered a way to do this easily and inexpensively. So the point is that if you can measure the relaxation entrainment of the body's liquids, the pressure, the Mayer wave, with the body's electricity, the heart pulse peak, the HRV peak, when that relaxes and phase locks together, the body becomes an efficient resonator and eventually implodes and the cascade goes to a climax. So the same thing that starts sacrocranial success then measures the end of stress and ultimately becomes the Kundalini mechanism of bliss, actually, which is where this is going. So this is the story of the breakthrough that is ithrve.com for people who understand the power of sacrocranial therapy. Remember, the original sacrocranial work was the practitioner places his fingers on your body, and by placing his attention into your body, that attention creates a centering force, and the
still point.
Exactly. Yeah. And the still point, the onset of the still point, which in sacrocranial is called, they call it the healing crisis. But it's actually the healing turning point, when your spine liquid pump stops. And the spine liquid pump is able to stop when the plasma becomes conjugate, centripetal, and implosive. Like, for example, Patrick actually measured the Therify plasma system helps create that still point. Yeah. So the theory is that when you create a still point by the addition of attention, whether yours or the therapist's, when you reach that conjugate implosive still point, then when the spine liquid then again begins pumping, the harmonics are more in phase, more negentropic, more harmonious, more phase conjugate, more implosive.
Beautiful cascade.
A beautiful, caduceus. And so that creating a still point creates the possibility of reorganization called negentropy or self-organization. So all of that becomes more measurable in a system like iThrive that's helping the sacrocranial people feel what the kids used to be able to feel all the time, the low frequencies in the body.
Yeah.
So that's the story of iThrive and sacrocranial with the help of Patrick Botti. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
More to come.